they're set up, and the only way I was able to succeed is with this phone. So I don't even know how I'm going to see the chat. Let me see if this is doable at all. Otherwise, at least I could get on the stream to tell you guys that I'm trying. I've been trying for the last 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Let me see where the chat is. I could do fancy filters. At least 1 minute. Create a short. Somebody type something. Oh, here's chat. I don't know if this is the right one. Okay, I can see chat. Thanks, Storm. So I guess we could do it like this. Hopefully the, what do you call it? Audio is not too bad. And my hand doesn't fall asleep holding the phone. So what questions do you have today? I was introducing a topic. I had a topic in mind. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, JG. Hi, Joyce, Chief, Digital Dogs. I was thinking of an opening topic. The opening topic could be, why would you know what anything is supposed to symbolize? You know, like we say Mars symbolizes X, Y, Z. We say Taurus symbolizes ABC. Why? How do you know that? That could be a topic. You know what would be funny is if I look at this video and it turns out to be better quality than the usual ones. It's just the phone. This is old phone. What I think of astrocartography, I must have answered this question on every single live stream so far almost. People love astrocartography. Astrocartography is just where you move the ascendant of the chart relative to where you currently are, and then see how that changes the positions of your birth planets relative to that new ascendant and thus the new houses. I think it's a fascinating idea, and I think it works fairly well. I don't put too much into it. Michael Wallen asks if I think Vedic astrology becoming more mainstream in the West. If you compare it to 1950, then obviously, right? Basically the West didn't know anything about anything authentic about anything Hindu, so-called, for quite a long time. And then you had the hippie era where the Hare Krishna movement flourished and they spread a lot of interest. Also parallel with that, you had self-realization fellowship and other similar things from India coming west during that time period. And then post that, there's the yoga explosion. And so all these things are carriers of general interest in Indian culture. And so, yeah, I do think that everything related with ancient Indian culture is becoming more mainstream. This is just funny. Thank you for knowing. I'm glad you liked the Morrison video. Just anyway, here in Japan, definitely Indian things are becoming more mainstream relative to Japanese culture, because they opened up, I think, 500,000 visas for Indian people to come in. And they already had a visa agreement with Nepal. So here, where I'm living right now in this city, I'd say 1 out of 5 people is Nepali. Fallout Means. Thank you so much. Thanks, Puma. My son got my eyelashes too. In school, they called him Matsuge Nagai Ningen, the human with long eyelashes. Any other questions? I kind of like the way this works. My thoughts on Uranus, my movements of my Uranus movement into Gemini. I don't use invisible planets. You have to ask yourself, why is astrology, why is it called a reading? What is it? Why is it called astrology? Logi has to do with words. Anything logi has to do with ideas expressed in words. Why is it called a reading? It's because astrology, the original idea, the idea that of the people who originally mastered it and discovered it, is that the world speaks to us. The universe speaks to us through its signs. That's why they're called signs. Why they're called signs. It speaks to us through its body language. It has a body language. The configurations that are in speak to us. That goes back to my original suggestion of a topic, which is how do you know anything about astrology? How do you know Mars represents this or that? Because the things have some obviousness to them. The things in the sky have obviousness to them. Where they are, what color they are, what speed they move, how bright they are, how they relate to the four main directions. And because of those obvious facts, you get obvious symbolisms. Mars is red, and it has erratic movement. Hence, it's passionate, ambitious, independent, and so forth. Hence, it becomes dangerous. Right? Jupiter is bright and very steady, and it has a constant rhythm in relation with the sun. It has a 12 ratio of movement with the sun. Hence, it's very lawful, it's very auspicious, it's very reliable, it's very encouraging. And all the symbolisms come from that. The first house is in the east. The first sign is connected to the eastern equinox. And hence all the symbolisms come from these basic things, the basic obvious things. Nobody just made them up. The universe itself described itself to us. Hence, what's the point in using Pluto or some Uranus, which we can't see, Neptune? These things don't have the traits. You have to make up the traits. So I don't use these planets because they're not a part of the astrological system that I subscribe to. I'm a purist. So I like to keep things that are... If something is broken, it's probably because somebody tried to fix it. That's my philosophy. In nature, if something is broken, it's probably because somebody tried to fix it. So I try to keep things as unfixed and raw as I can. Let's see what else we got. Kuma says, I just purchased your True Signs reading. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you, Kuma. How would you say the best way to use the information would be? Just read it. It's not meant to be a puzzle. In fact, one of the things that I did consciously about this reading was make it more accessible than the other reports. Make it more easy to access. But no matter what you do, astrology is always difficult. Like communication is always complicated. Language is complicated, and astrology is a form of communication, like I just said. It's a form of symbols and words. So, of course, no matter how simple you try to make something, it's going to be confusing, especially for some people. You know, everybody's chart is different. Some people come up with a confusing combination of things. Some people come up with an obvious, easy-to-read combination of things when you look at it in a certain way. So if you feel like I'm a little mystified by this. Then just watch the videos that I'm putting out about the different. I wonder if I had a QA sticker, favorite type. I can't understand this. What was I saying? Yeah, watch the videos that I put out, that I'm putting out, like the one about Trump's true sign, the one about Morrison's true sign, Disney's true sign, the videos that I'm doing that show you how to figure out the true signs, which have Marilyn as the, what do you call it, example. So then you can see how I'm reading and interpreting it. What is not really so easy to give you in the report itself is the bonds that form in between the signs. So for example, so that would be the part that you need to work a little bit on yourself after you get the report. For example, if your most dominant sign is Leo, let's say like mine, then your next most dominant sign is Virgo, like mine, then a lot of the magic is in the interaction between Leo and Virgo, which is something I didn't code into the report. That's something that you realize. I mean, it's just like music. It's just like writing a song. You're never done. There's always more you could do to make it better. But, so you want to think about that. Like for example, Morrison is Capricorn dominant with followed up by Leo, and that combination explains a lot. So that might be the one thing that you want to watch the videos to get the hang of. Miss Saren asks if I got her order for the true signs chart. I wouldn't be able to know offhand. If you're not getting it from me, then get in touch with me by email. Which, if you don't know how to do that, you can do it right through PayPal, through your order. My email is in that page that you get from PayPal for your order. Let's see what other we have. What nakshatra do I have? Rohini. There's a lot of questions here. I scroll through them all. Okay, there's Kuma. There's Incredible Chris and Gavin. Hi, from New Zealand. Hey, I was in New Zealand last year. Just reading my reading this morning. I found the place. Yeah. That's 300. If you have a question about your reading, just contact me by email. Reply back to the email that you got it from. Why is opposition 180 degrees, but your opposite is enemies in the 6th house? Opposition just means opposite. Opposition and opponent are two different words. Opponent means someone who stands in front of you to fight. Opposite means somebody who just sits in front of you. And opposition is not inherently a difficult aspect. It's just a very intense, it's a very strong aspect because the two people are looking at each other. It's not like other aspects where one person is looking at the other and the other one is looking someplace else. Do I still play the guitar? I do indeed. Recently I'm realizing how good the guitar that I have is. In Japan, all the guitars, everything music-wise in Japan is ridiculously overpriced because it's all imported. So I ruled out the possibility of, what do you call it, pleasure shopping for a new one. And then I realized the one I have is really fantastic. So anyway, yeah, my favorite song is to play right now is Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd. Thank you, incredible. Michael asks, do you think society would be more productive, holistic, ascending if we stigmatize astrology? If we stigmatize astrology into becoming destigmatize it. Yeah, but that's not even the problem. The main problem is just that the main problem is ahimsa. You just have to understand the main morals, and therefore you understand the main problem. The main problem is ahimsa. Ahimsa means not harming. So, if people are harming, people are willing to harm each other. So, you know, the other things might be nice, like making people learn Sanskrit or understand astrology, but the real urgent matter is for making the world a better place is to make people realize that everyone has to be a friend to each other. Everyone has to work together. What do I think about the solar return charts? They're good. I used to do a solar return reading back 12 years ago or something. There's a nice system preserved in India by Neil Kanta, I believe. It's a Persian system, but it was preserved in India and lost in Persia. It's called Varshpala. So there's a nice set of rules and everything for analyzing solar return charts that are in the Sanskrit books. And I feel that they're pretty good. The problem, astrology is kind of like ice cream. There's all the flavors are good, you know? Like, is there an ice cream flavor that you just think is gross? Probably not that many, but there are foods that you really don't want to eat that you think are gross. So astrology is like that. Like so many techniques are so cool, so great. Why don't you get into Jaimini? Why don't you do this Atmakarka, this that? Why don't you do astrocartography? Why don't you do solar returns? Sure, I'd love to, but I got my chocolate mint ice cream here in front of me, so yeah, rum raisin looks good too, but I'm focusing on my chocolate mint. That's what I feel like it is like with astrology. Like, whatever you focus on, you're going to get good at it, and you're going to, you know, utilize it really well and develop it really well. But if you have this dualistic problem, you know, with the dual signs, Gemini, Pisces, etc., where you just can't stick on one thing, ADHD, then you're not going to get good at anything. So I just stick with my stuff until my internal motivators tell me it's time to move on, which hasn't happened, doesn't look like it's going to happen soon. What sign was David Bowie? I'm not sure. I would have to figure it. So I guess I can't really control the settings. All right, you know, I've never done this on the phone before, so I can't really figure out the settings. Usually this live chat's supposed to be for members and should have a slow mode. What's this? Oh, shoot. I better not just click random buttons. Weird things are happening. Hi, Chief. Yeah, it's kind of hard. Thank you, Marco. Hey, Divine Oracular Essence. Strawberry mint. Hey, Vic, any thoughts on Saturn in the ninth for a Cancer ascendant? Dave, do you know that actually today I'm filming Saturn in the 10th. So that means that the last video I did in that series was Saturn in the 9th. So do you know if you search Vic DiCara's Saturn in the 9th, you'll get the video? And specifically if it's for a Cancer ascendant, then you just need to know how the lords in the houses. What would that be? It would make it 7th and 8th lord in the 9th house. But it's the main deal would be just from that video. So I'll refer you to that. Chief says David Bowie's Capricorn January 8th, but that's the whole thing that they're asking about, Chief. Is that also, Chief, so please look at my recent videos of true signs of people. Same thing for a Hanam. It's not what your Virgo Sun, Virgo Moon, Aquarius rising. That's look up the videos to see how you really figure out a true sign, or go to my site and get the true sign report for yourself. to see how you really sort out what your sign is. KV says, these guys are asking me to ask you how many pillows. YouTube is asking me these ridiculous questions. How many pillows do you sleep with? People do these live things on such deep topics. I find it difficult to believe, KV says, that I have ADHD when in reality I have a lot of fire in my chart. Actually, so the next report that I'm going to do, which I almost was a part of the science thing but became too much, is elements. So also you will find out what your real elements are. Is it really a lot of fire, or maybe it's a lot of air? But also for ADHD, it's really modality, whether it's cardinal, fixed, or dual, which is something you want to look at. And which is the main thing you want to look at. And then you want to just look at how it contrasts with the type of planet. So for example, if you have just having a lot of fire doesn't mean that you're not going to have ADHD, because there's planets that are not suited for fire. You know, putting Earth planets in fire is going to make a problem. Of course, Mars and Moon are connected. Devin is looking forward to Saturn the 10th. Thank you. He's having Cancer, Sun, and Moon both in 4th. Yes, everything is special. Is it just me, or is the volume low? Probably the volume's low, because if you didn't notice, I'm using a phone, because for some reason the browser page refused to cooperate. Astro Steph, it's been a long time, right? We used to talk on Discord, that Discord channel. I think that's you. Refreshing my memory, the true science takes into consideration the spectrum of zodiac balance in all the divisional charts. Yes, that's correct. Astro Steph, please get this true science reading for yourself. The link is in the description below. What are your thoughts, Dave asks more clearly, on a Saturn return for Cancer ascendant? I don't know, it's dependent on the Cancer ascendant. Just the Saturn return thing is more significant. But again, like, a Saturn return is a very generic concept. People take generic concepts and then use them as if they are the interpretive tool. A generic concept is a concept that teaches you how to make interpretations. You have to remember that if you don't want to get, I don't know, completely corny in your astrological work. I'll give you an example. Everybody talks about Saturn returns. And basically people know that it happens about every 27 years. So I had something very significant happen this year, and based on something very significant that happened 27 years ago. When I was mentioning it, my friend automatically said, "Oh, Saturn return, right?" But it is obviously it's connected with Saturn because of the 27-year cycle, but it's not Saturn return. There are many things which will happen on a 27-year pattern that aren't even connected with Saturn returns. It all depends on the geometry of your chart and how a transit can affect all that geometry. So what I mean, for example, is that if you have many trines in your chart, and you might be like a new person to Vedic astrology and you don't understand the way Vedic aspects actually work, and you might think that there's not that many trines, only Jupiter does trines, so you might overlook all those trines from the aspects point of view. But even if that is the case, then the fact that you have all these trines in your chart means that Jupiter is going to be double transiting or triple transiting all these things. So in other words, if you have squares, and it's not just the square between the planet, but it's the fact that Mars and Saturn will double transit them. Or if you're something 90 degrees apart, especially, that will happen. So sometimes some people, like me, get configurations that are exactly in a Saturn pattern, which is 60 degrees, 60 degrees, 180 degrees, and 270 degrees. Or honestly, even if you just get 60 and 180, it's going to be noticeable. And then if you get a Saturn, also Saturn return, people say Saturn return as if it's like the most important thing about Saturn, but for transiting planets, people also are so obsessed with retrogression as if it's such an important thing. It's an important thing for transits. For transiting planets, retrogression and direct and stationariness, especially stationariness, is the most significant factor. Whereas in reading a birth chart, you can completely skip it. You can literally skip. You can end all of your questioning about your retrograde planets, just forget about it, and you'll be fine. And just pick and just focus on the retrogression when it comes to interpreting transits. Because when a planet stations in between a direct and a retrogression, it's going to just burn a hole into the spot where it is and into all the places that it's aspecting. And if it's stationing on those points. So what I'm trying to get at in a very long-winded way is you can't just take a generic idea like a Saturn return and then look in your chart for your Saturn returns and then expect everything to fall in place around that. What really is going to happen is when Saturn, for example, is stationing on points where it's affecting multiple things in your chart, that's where you're going to get your 27-year patterns. But of course, Saturn return is also something significant. And it's just like another chapter in your 3-chapter play. In life relating to Saturn and how to interpret it is also the generic suggestion on how to interpret it is so useless, except as an instruction about how to make a theoretical interpretation. Really, it's going to make whatever Saturn represents in your chart come into its next phase. No, Choco. Let me see what else you guys got here for questions. Because now there's too many because everybody's chatting, so I can't keep up with it all. If my true Alfonso, good to see you. If my true sign is Leo and not my ascendant, which is Capricorn, does that mean I should pay more attention at things, placements, transits from Leo, and not so much? No, it just what the true sign reading is just like, what is your sign? In the way that people ask you, what's your sign? People don't ask you, what's your transiting anchor? What's your transit lugna? People ask you, what's your sign? Because they want to ascribe the traits of that sign to you to better understand you. That's what the true signs reading does in a very complete way, much more complete way than anybody's done it before. But it doesn't mean that now, because your true sign is Leo, that you don't actually have an ascendant in Capricorn. Your ascendant's in Capricorn. And that's what made your balance what it is. So, you still are counting, you're still doing all your technical work in the same exact way. It's just if you want to tell somebody what your sign is, or if you want to understand what your sign is, there it is, in the true signs. Oh, Ashish from Vrindavan. Radhe. Jai Radhe. Look, actually Mars is a planet that's in the sky. It's not like this and that god or anything. It's a rock that's out in space. But the movements of that rock communicate different things to us. Okay? And then the type of communication that you get from that rock that's out in space has to do with things that are associated with or governed by various gods. So if somebody says that Jupiter is Brihaspati, the guru of the gods, do you think that Brihaspati is a big gas thing floating in space? Brihaspati is a person teaching Indra. It's what's actually what the thing is. It's just like if you say, oh, Saturn is like Mr. Spock, and the sun is like Captain Kirk. You're personifying it so that you can better understand the forces. This is the same way you can say uh, Jupiter is like Zeus or Jupiter is like Brihaspati, so that you understand it. But actually, the real astrology is just this is what I said before. It's just obvious from the way things are and the way things look. This planet is bright and steady. That planet is dim and slow. This planet is red and weird, moves around on its own. This planet is bright and always near the sun. This planet is dim and always near, etc. This is the sun. This is the moon. This is over here in the west. This is over there in the east. And since it's over here and there, then it has to do with the same things that this god or this Star Trek character or that soap opera character has to do. Why do you think the third house, Devin asks, is viewed so differently between Hellenistic astrology and Jyotish? To answer that, I would really have to figure out Hellenistic astrology and how it's different. So I haven't invested in that, so I can't really answer that. My first suspicion really is just that it's a mistake somewhere along the way on the Hellenistic side and the way the Hellenistic thing is currently being taught and presented. That's just my suspicion. It may be a mistake in the current translation and expression of it, or it may have been a mistake in how they determined what the third house was. But that's just my uninformed, uneducated guess, like initial hypothesis. I would have to really research. AA Whole Games, thank you. I got your email. Bold says, I recently received my True Science report. Thank you, which is in the link in the description below. Validated so many things that I intuitively thought. Thank you. The Castor and Pollux Shakti is a different nakshatra. Castor and Pollux are actually Yogatars. I forget which one. I think it's Purnavasu, but it's not Ashwini. So just get my books like 27 Stars, 27 Gods, or the Nakshatras, and learn it from the source materials. Carefully, slowly, take your time. I can see that your intellect is hungry. But if you eat too fast, you get indigestion and you get sick. So eat well, eat slow down, and eat from a good cook and somebody who has good ingredients. Ashish on a live chat. I love the enthusiasm. What is a guru? Ashish. It's someone from whom we get knowledge. You don't ask a person if they can do that. You just see if it happens or if it doesn't. Let's see what time. Somehow it says I made $9.25. I must have forgotten to thank people for that. Time is. We got some more time. Do parents solely influence all aspects of life for a child, astrologically speaking? No. Would all possibilities for the child depend on what the parents' charts show? I hope it makes sense. No, I know what you're asking. And by the way, greetings, managers. No, the child's chart is the child's chart, and the child will have the parents. The child's chart will have the parents, everything about the parents is also coded into the child's chart. Conversely, also everything about the child, all of the key things about the child from the parent's perspective are coded into the parent's charts. All of the key things about the parents as they affect the child from the child's perspective are coded into the child's chart. So you don't need to do like I've seen some of these people do, request the entire 10-generation history of a person, birth data for 10 generations. before you interpret their chart. Aaron asked if I have Jupiter in the 8th. Retrograde, is that positive or negative? Jupiter in the 8th can be positive or negative. So watch my videos because they'll show you how you figure out if something is positive or negative, or get the reports. The report, and you can get to the page with the reports from the link in the description below. That's the key, really, is to how do you figure out if something is positive or negative. And the thing that makes astrology so versatile is that anything can be positive or negative anywhere. You know, not as positive or negative, but anything can be positive or negative anywhere. So that's the key, and I explain it in a lot of the videos, how you do it. Like, look at any planet and sign videos, and at the end I should be explaining that. Basically, it comes down to that's the role that the sign plays. That's the very, very simplified version of it. Is a planet is in a house, right? But it's also in a sign in that house. What role does the sign play? The sign plays determining the dignity of the planet in that house. That's actually how the subdivisions report and the basic chart report that I offer, that's how the architecture of the interpretations is structured. That's the logic of the interpretations. Thank you, Z. It's structured that I look at the planet in the house, and then I use the sign, etc. More than just the sign, but I use the sign as the basis to determine the planet's positivity or negativity in that house. Then I give you the interpretation based on that. Hey, F Rhythms. You know, these names are weird and different than what I'm used to seeing. But it's good to see you. I was just reading your comment on the Morrison video. Snake says, having Pisces in the 12th house is so frustrating to me because the more ethereal and mystical states are so heavily locked away. It's got to be from something else. Though I know what you're talking about, because now you put 2 chickens in one basket, 2 eggs in one basket. But that's not really what's doing it for you. Get a good reading, get some reports, etc. to figure out if you feel that you're getting blocked from mystical states. Because there's so many other ways, like unless your sun and your moon are also in Aries, you know, and unless you got Aries in every subdivision, then you'd really be locked like the way you feel. I've been talking to you, Ashish. People are not here. Hey, Skonas, thank you. You got the that personal email, you know, what do they call it, consultation with him? Bhavesh, good to see you again. My method for the interpretation of nodal dashas. How you interpret the dasha of a node, Vimshotri dasha. I don't know. I'm just, you know, that's what the other thing is that I like to be is honest. Dashas, I worked out a whole system and made a whole report on dashas, but I'm not offering it right now because I really feel that it's one of the things I'm going to upgrade and improve. Yeah, I'm not really so sure yet about dashas, and the reason why, even after, I don't know, 15, 20 years, I'm still not sure yet about dashas is because I don't even feel like I need to be sure about dashas. The way it all depends on how you were introduced to astrology. If you're introduced to astrology by people who were presenting dashas as a very important, integral part of how you do astrology, then you're going to feel like I really have to figure out how to interpret the dashas. That was not my case, and that's not my case. So between having a natal chart in front of me and and having transits, I just don't even feel a need to go at much extent at all into dashas. The only way that I've consistently found them to be useful is that the dasha planet, the planets that have their lordships running in a dasha system, it's like their importance in the transits is enhanced by the fact that they're running a dasha. That's been the most consistent practical technique or thing that I found about dashas, and how to relate that to chronological predictions. Zakaram says, you spoke about the nodes recently and the significance of either the ascendant or moon contacting them. You think, what do you expect from the impact when one is conjoined to each node? Yeah, like you have ascendant, say, conjoined Ketu and the moon conjoined Rahu. I mean, it's significant. Then you just get more and more Rahu Ketu nodal influence. So that you have to bring up the importance of your interpretation of the role of Rahu and Ketu in its native. Right. To be more specific than that is kind of useless, because the specifics of that come from the particular chart in which it's happening. Hey Pedro, stationary Mercury this past Saturday. I feel irritated but focused. Are remedies legit? I have a lot of videos on remedies too. You can search DiCara's remedies. The best remedy is Gyan. The best remedy is Vidya. This is the true remedy. A Games asked how interpretation differs for dominant planet versus overall sign lord. You know, I get these cool reactions on the screen, like hearts or hundreds and stuff. Because of the delay, I'm not sure if I really know what it's responding to. Maybe to the dasha statement. How does the interpretation differ for dominant planet versus overall sign? So, okay, so the question is this: like in the True Signs report, I give you the balance of your signs, and I also give you a balance of sign rulers, which is really useful. It's one of the parts of the report that it's more useful to people that are a little bit more comfortable working with astrological symbols. But still, it's very useful. So this is the difference. Whereas in other reports, like subdivisions, basic chart report, I figure out the dominance of the planets. I show you the dominance of the planets based on other things, based on how they align with other points. So this question is, what's the difference between a planet that is dominant as a sign lord versus dominant by being physically dominant in the sky? So the sign lord dominance has to do with the motivators. It says it right in the report. This has to do with your motivators. I wish I had the report in front of me. There's another keyword. Let me look it up. It's going to take a bit. I'm not going to look it up because I was messing with my computer to try to get the real YouTube thing to work. But it didn't. That's why we're on the phone right now. But anyway, the signs tell you more about your motivators and what you aspire for and your goals. Because that's what the ruler does. Like a ruler of a planet tells you what's underneath the hood of that planet, like what's driving the planet. Who is the planet working for? Whereas the dominant planet is just exerting its influence by its dominance. So a prominent sign ruler is one that will show the person's motives and what they really want in life. Kuma asks if the true signs report is like your personal, just what your personality profile is most like. In a sense, it's like 80 pages of information. There's all this kind of stuff in here. It's more than just a personality profile. You can also, you can use it for many, many things. Like you can see what kind of work you're suited for best, or you can see what kind of things will make you happy. This is a good question, Ashish. Thank you, Zachary. My questions were dope. They were dope. So I answered them. You being a pusher. How do I? Mariano says I'm a pusher. I don't think I'm a pusher. I'm Rohi. So since you got that wrong, I'm going to skip the rest of it. What, in my opinion, is Mars' most redeeming quality? There's a lot. Basically, if you want to know what Mars' most redeeming quality is, ask yourself a question like, what's the redeeming quality of the police? Not the band, but the police. What are they good for? Then you'll understand what Mars, or what's an army good for? I mean, there is a real reason to have an army. There is a real reason to have police. If you figure that out, then you'll know what Mars is really good for. Markle asks, is it always needed to integrate more of the energy of the sign opposite of a true sign? No. Look at sometimes you'll have the opposite sign from you. So sometimes you might have Leo as the main sign and Aquarius right after it. So then it's not going to be like you're hungry for Aquarius. Look at the one that you really are lacking is the sign that's down at the bottom. And also, I do think it's healthy in a sense to say, oh, I'm lacking Pisces. Or in my case, I'm lacking Aquarius. So let me make some conscious effort to be more Aquarius aware in my life. I think that's healthy too, but it's also don't expect to become an Aquarian expert or to become an Aquarian. You're not. That's why it's down low on your balance list. But I think try to appreciate the people that aren't you. And the True Signs report would show you the kinds of people that who aren't you. You know, the kind of people like in my whatever, whose main sign is towards the bottom of your sign list. The comets communicate to us in the same way. Comets are classified as nimitic Ketu. That's why they're called Ketu. So they communicate differently. Actually, they don't have a steady movement to the sky. So you don't do the same thing like, oh, this comet appeared in this. As far as I know, maybe I'm wrong. This comet appeared in this sign in this house, especially the house, because it's not really progressing through those things, and it doesn't have a relationship to those things. I could be wrong with that, but the thing that I know I'm not wrong about is, they're not like a part of the birth chart. Like you don't track them where they are all the time. They become relevant to astrological interpretation when you actually see them. And so it's a very different whole format of interpretation for Naimittic Jyotish. Naimittic Jyotish is like, when you hear a dog bark in a certain circumstance, or somebody cries, or the sun, the cloud, a very heavy cloud suddenly covers the sun, a comet comes in the sky, or something like that. That's Naimittic Jyotish, or something on your face twitches. It's a whole different, there's nothing to do with charts, houses, signs for interpreting those stuff. So they do communicate Nenushko, but not in the same way. Lisa Mann says, I have a question about Venus turning retrograde while transiting natal June. But nice question. Both are benefics, but I wonder if this can cause trouble. It can cause, it has a generic potential to cause trouble because sometimes the two planets can disagree, Venus and Jupiter. Jupiter tends to be pretty uninterested in luxury and pleasures. Tends to be. And Venus, on the other hand, tends to be interested in luxury. So you can get that dichotomy. But the main thing, what is the dignity of the transiting Venus as it is stationing? That's what I have found to be my first thing on my checklist of how I'm going to make this interpretation. If a planet's like if Saturn is stationing in Aries, I'm not going to give it the same, I'm not going to look at it the same way as if Saturn is stationing in Libra. Obviously, right? So if Venus is stationing in Pisces, I'm not going to look at it the same way as if it's stationing in Virgo. And also the second thing on the checklist is what is the condition and the dignity of the planet that's being aspected. So depending on that, it's not generically that Venus transiting Jupiter has ABC effects. It's not very useful. They don't, like as I said before, it's only really useful in teaching us how to make interpretations. It's not really useful as an interpretation itself. What's useful is to be able to have the checklist of how you decode the actual situation. Dave asks if I'm familiar with intuitive casting and synchronicities that happen around movies and the actors and actresses playing the roles coinciding with the archetypes of the nakshatra they are. I'm familiar with Claire Nucky's videos. What's just going on there is simple. It's just so simple. It's like if a person has a dominant, I don't know, Ardra, then they're not going to be suited for parts. They don't have a personality, which makes actors play themselves. That's the thing. Actors play themselves. That's why there's casting agents. There's very few actors that can play any role. Actors are generally good in a particular role because that particular role comes naturally to them. They know how to depict those kind of emotions. They know how to do those kind of actions because it's natural to them. That's why you get the characters in the movies working as examples of the traits of the astrology of the people who played the characters. Thank you, Lisa. I'm going to look. Do I believe in astrological ages and why? Yeah, so there are things that are longer. There are things that happen on longer scales. So basically we kind of end our yardstick at 27, traditionally, because we end with Saturn. But then you have combinations. So those are called the yogas or yugas. So the combination which is immediately bigger than 27 is 60. It's the yuga of Jupiter and Saturn. It's called the Brihaspati Vash. I did a video on this not too long ago. I think you can look it up if you search Jovian cycles in Vedic astrology. So that's an example of a bigger astrological age, is each one of these cycles. Each one of these cycles of 60 years has a whole nother theme to it. That's why astrology, you can't, people have a pipe dream that you should be able to clinically prove astrology or something. You just can't. You get into the ballpark, but there's so many variables that are in the background that we haven't even taken into consideration. What yuga is it? And I'm not even talking about Kali Yuga. What Brihaspati Yuga is it? Because then you take those 60-year cycles, and there's 12 cycles of those. Oh no, there's 5-year cycles, 12 5-year cycles within the 60-year cycle. Then there's these bigger cycles of 60 that fit into a bigger one, and so you get these bigger and bigger astrological units. However, these recently they did this thing with sidereal the sidereal Aries moving through the tropical Aries. Now, this movement of the sidereal points versus the tropical points, which I think is garbage. It's just a mistake. However, a version of it, which I would agree with, is the movement of the nakshatras through the rashis. So that's the same thing. But instead of making the mistake of saying sidereal Aries, how is it now related to tropical Aries? Because sidereal Aries itself is a fallacy. But the real sidereal units are the nakshatras. So you can measure, like, okay, this is the period of history in which Pushya was in Cancer. And look at the quality of civilization at that time. Now it's out of Cancer. Look at the quality of civilization at this time. So you can that's another way you can look at astrological ages that's sort of related to the age of Aquarius type of system. And then the bigger system breaks astrology. Like when people talk about Kali Yuga, of course you have Yukteswar try to explain it with astrology, but it's heterodoxical. His approach is a heterodoxical invention. This orthodox or traditional one is explained clearly in Surya Siddhanta. They're cycles that are based on breath, but not the breath of humans, the breath of Vishnu, the breath of gods, the breath of Vishnu, the breaths of Brahma and the breath of Vishnu. So, because you get cycles, you get universal cycles that are actually longer than the existence of planets. And so it's impossible to use planetary configurations to determine it. There is a fact that there's a mean astrological conjunction of all 7 planets in the vicinity at the beginning of Aries, which happens twice in a complete Mahayuga cycle. And one of the times that it happens is at the end of Dwarpa, and the other time when it happens at the end of Satya, I believe. Watch my video. I have a video about this. It's just called Surya Siddhanta. Search Surya Siddhanta with DiCara. See, there's so many videos that you guys could watch. So in terms of those big ages, like those cosmologically huge ages, those are not astrological. The Storm says, what reading should I get from you in regards to wanting to know about Saturn and Mars in my 8th house? Thank you for my son Stuart's reading. Hey, that's great. Nice to see you. It really helped me. Thank you. I'm glad to hear from you. You should probably just, if you have Saturn and Mars in the 8th house in the main chart, then a basic chart report would be fine for you. Marina is giving us a Maha Mantra. Gunmetal Crow says, if moon oppositions are good for studentry, how come Tower Ball relationship isn't ideal? That's cool. That's an interesting point. I'm not sure that the opposition would always coincide with the Tower Ball being, but if you say it's Paramitra and Sampat, then that is ideal. But those nakshatras are bigger than the opposition, or smaller than the opposition, depending on how you want to look at it. Mariano says, do I think that the nakshatras signify a cosmic stage from first to last? Maybe, but it's not too relevant to understand. Maybe it's interesting if you're interested in it, that's great. But to really understand the nakshatras and what they really symbolize, it's not the best way to do it. Let me see, I'm about to come up to my hour mark, so I'll probably end soon. Christy Belly, I'm just doing this on a phone because my regular way of doing it broke. I couldn't get on any other way. Calaban census if I'm going to teach Samudrika Shastra. Thank you, by the way. And maybe I haven't even studied it yet. So, all right, that's going to be all. Uh, okay, guys, thank you so much for joining. Hey, Katerina. I will see you probably next week. We can do this again. And hopefully my real setup will work that time. Thanks so much.